Hello everyone, thank you for joining. What I'd like to talk about today is my aloe shelf. So I'm going to water all my aloes today. I do them once a week. I find this to be a very interesting species of succulent. I don't always know when they're thirsty, so I have them on a schedule of once a week, keeping in mind that they're in very gritty soil. I haven't had any show signs of rot, and so I think so far this schedule is a good thing. One of the reasons I chose once a week is because it makes it so much easier for me to water them all at once than to put them on individual schedules. Now, individual schedules have the advantage of me being able to decide if one of them looks over or underwatered. Maybe they need a little bit extra and I'm not giving it to them. On the other hand, I have a lot of aloe and it just makes it so much easier to do them all at once. It's a lot of work. So this is my every Saturday I do these plants routine, and then I don't have to worry about them until the next weekend. Because I'm a person who waters them one by one, it makes it easier to first move all of my smaller plants that are in the front to another place. And then I can start in the back and move them over one by one as I water them. It gives it, it makes it a little easier for me to handle and then make sure they're all in the places where they belong. I'm very much a stickler on making sure that the plants are in a certain place, sometimes pointing in a certain orientation. And so I want to make sure that it's as easy to do that as possible. As I water them, I'll try to remember what their names are to give you an idea of, who we have here today. So this is my Aloe mini bell. What you can see from looking at this plant is that it looks like it's in a rather large pot for the size of the plant that it is. And there's kind of a good reason for that. I had it in a smaller pot at one point, and I needed to repot it for some reason. Can't remember why. But when I pulled it out of the smaller pot, I noticed that aloe will have a tendency to have lots and lots of roots. Their roots can get very long, they can extend pretty far, and so I needed to put her in a bigger pot, even though technically she looks like she's pretty small. Okay. I try to let it drain a bit, and then I'll put it back where it belongs. Okay. Don't remember what this one is called. I think this is an aloe zebra. This one is a nice little plant with some really beautiful coloring on the leaves. And it's got one baby here. And so it is going to be able to reproduce for us. If that baby gets big, I may actually remove that, what they call pup, and move it into a different pot, but it's not taking up really any extra space that the plant needs, so I'm going to leave it where it is. Now, one of the things that I notice here is that some of these leaves have curled in on themselves. That could be a sign of thirst, but to be honest, I don't know for sure. Aloe don't show me their thirstiness too much. And one of the things I do see on the end of this one is some browning. I can leave it as is, or I can clip it off. I chose to clip it off because I just want this to look as clean and as ornamental as possible. The next aloe is my Delta Lights. This is most likely called a Delta Lights because of the beautiful pink colors on these outer leaves. I see a little bit of browning on this one that I'm just going to clip off. Once again, not necessary, but something that I like to do just to maintain a tidy appearance. This plant has a couple of different pups that I moved into another pot, and we'll look at those in probably a couple minutes. And what I'm finding with this plant is it's doing well, and we've got some of the inner part of the plant has new leaves coming in. This is very pretty with the bright colors and the different colors. Okay. Sometimes I will hold it for a while and let it drain so that when I put it back, it will not be sitting in water for, any length of time. I feel like if there's a little bit of water, that will evaporate, but you don't want it sitting in a large amount of water because, this is still a succulent and it still needs to be dry. I don't know if you can see it, but this particular leaf in the center has some really pretty purpling on the edge. Okay, I'm gonna put it back where it belongs. This is the Delta Lights babies that I separated from the mother plant. I don't see a lot of green in the center, which may indicate that, but even though I see new leaves, and this may indicate that it's having some, stress. Maybe the light is very, very light, very bright for it. Maybe it's not getting enough water. It doesn't look unhealthy to me. I see the browning of a couple edges, but really they look good. They look good, and I'm not going to mess with their schedule or with their pot. I figure it'll give them plenty of room to live together for quite some time before they start to maybe crowd each other out. Yeah, I am finding in the house, aloe are slow growers, just like a lot of succulents, and I'm not needing to repot them very often, but they do grow, and it may come a time where you do need to repot them. Okay, this one I believe is called my blue Castellone. The colors under the lights, it's lost some of the bluish tinge and has more of like an olive green tinge. What you can see underneath is the baby has some bluer tinges to it. But overall, this is a really beautiful plant in an architectural way. It's got some very sharp looking teeth on it, and it's got nice thin leaves. Gorgeous. It has, the center does have some new leaf growth. So this appears to be a happy plant. Go ahead and water this. And we're going to let it drain for a second. And I do want to mention that these pots are heavy. They're in very gritty soil that's made up of a lot of rock. So they are heavy. I don't like to tote them around a lot. So that's why, the once a week schedule is really good for me in terms of watering them. Okay. These are the baby Castellones that were with the plant when I bought it. And I potted them up separately, similar to the baby Delta Lights. They're also sun-stressed, but I believe those are some nice new inner leaf growths as well. I love how it doesn't just go in one direction. It's kind of, a plant that reaches every which way. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and water that. My next plant is an aloe sidewinder. This plant has significantly grown over time, and it is such a unique plant. It does have a pup growing under here, and actually there might be two, I'm not sure, but I know for sure that we've got at least one pup. I'm going to go ahead and water this, and then we'll pick it up and show you a closer look. One of the things that you might notice me do, if I don't end up editing that out, would be that I conserve water. Between watering these, I do save that water that drains through, and I use it to water other plants. I don't know that that's okay to do. I'm just saying I do it and I haven't had any issues with doing it. It hasn't seemed to transfer pests or anything like that, and it just seems to make more sense to me than pouring water out that could be used to water other plants. Okay, one of the things that you'll see with this plant is it is sun stressed as well. It's got some really gorgeous pink burgundy tones to it that kind of came out with the plant lights. I did have it in a much smaller container when I bought it, and then I did repot it at a certain point in time because it started to grow. It's not grown in leaps and bounds or anything like that. It is still an aloe, and I have a feeling that these will eventually reach a certain type of maximum size. It's hard to say. I really haven't had them for that long to understand what the maximum growth is that you could expect. This is a beautiful specimen, and honestly, this was one of the specimens that started my aloe fascination, because when I saw this, I just had to try it, and then it just led to more and more aloe types. Okay. I'm going to put that back. I believe this is called an aloe snowdrift. I don't remember exactly. When I edit, I'll put this on the screen so you can see the name. This has done extremely well. One thing you'll notice is I have cut a lot of the original leaves because of the browning or the aging of the leaves, and the inner leaves are just gorgeous. And then underneath of it is 1, 2, 3, 4 babies. Maybe 5. So there we go. This plant is loving the environment that I've given it. So I can say that she is doing well. The schedule I have her on is working. Remember, I water them once a week, but they are in very gritty soil that is a blend of rocks and cocoa coir. I don't have any type of peaty soil in there. I think for a while I had mixed in a little bit of like worm castings, but I mean, I think with succulents, you don't necessarily need that. I was just trying to give them the best environment possible. So I will let that drain a second and put it back. Okay. This is a aloe that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. I think it's doing much better now than it was for a while. I got it at, I believe, the Home Depot, and it's got all these babies in it, which to my mind meant that this must be a happy and thriving specimen. Since it has so many babies, at one point I was going to repot it into a bigger pot. When I pulled it out of the pot, it really did not have the root system that I would have expected from an aloe. So this is either an aloe hybrid of some sort, or it wasn't a very happy aloe. So what I did at that point is I just repotted it back into the pot that it was in. So this is the smaller type pot, and I just repotted it right back into that pot. I don't notice any more die-off. The babies are growing very well. We do occasionally have some leaves that die back, but not in any large amount, not any considerable way. So I think it's going to do well. I think I just need to let it be. Sometimes, messing with them and making decisions for them, just let them be. That's why people say they neglect them. And one day you look at them and they have something new you didn't expect. So that, yeah, at one point I didn't know if it was going to survive or do well, but it's still hanging in there. Next is my Aloe Snowstorm. This one has a lot of plants together in one pot. I did move out one when I first bought it, so I have a separate baby, which is on a different shelf in a different pot, and you'll kind of see the difference. This one is under brighter light, maybe. It's by itself, and it just looks a little different, but this is a baby of this particular plant. Because they stay pretty compact for what they are, I don't really feel the need to separate them. And this I moved aside to just experiment. You know, plants are a game, and I wanted to see what would happen in a different set of circumstances on a different shelf with a different watering schedule. So I do see some of the edges are browning. Once again, trimming is not strictly necessary, but something that I'll sometimes do just to spruce up the look of the plant a little bit. And one of the great things about grooming, you look at your plant, you see if there's anything unusual. You can pull off dried leaves. I'm wary right now because in the past, one of the more expensive aloe that I had bought from an online nursery developed aloe mite. So I am really on the alert to look for pests or issues, or, you know, to see if the plant has done any sort of significant changing over time, or if I notice like there's a new baby in here that's new. I hadn't seen that before. So just being aware of how your plants are doing. Probably bears saying again that they're slow growers, and you're not going to see a change every day or every week even. But one day you're going to look in there and you're going to see something that's really different than that you hadn't noticed before. Keep on the lookout for pests. Keep on the lookout for new growth and new babies, and even like keep on the lookout for dieback or any sort of significant changes. The next plant, I do forget the name of this one. I'll pop that up on the screen as well. This is a beauty. It's one of my newer ones, and it's going to bloom, which is really exciting. I did notice last week that a bloom was coming in. And so each week I'll be able to come here and, well, I mean, it's my room. I can look at it anytime I want. But we'll be able to look at it each week close up and see how it's developing over time. From my experience, aloe inflorescences are very pretty. And it's rewarding because you know that if your plant is flowering, you have a happy plant. I noticed that there is new babies under here. They didn't have these babies before when I first purchased the plant. So I've got two here. Just give you an idea of what that looks like. I was very attracted to this plant for the color, and it hasn't really darkened up under the lights, which is nice. I think a difference might be that some of the teeth on the edge have gotten a little pinker. And we've gotten some new leaves and of course a new flower stalk coming in. What I like to try to do is when I put them back, I try to not let them touch each other. And then I like to do everything in the back first and then do everything in the front next, as much as possible. This is a lavender haze. This is, I think this is my newest aloe. When I went to the store, I had no intention. I've been attracted to these for a while, but I didn't really have an intention to buy it. And a lot of plants I actually go when I buy them, I didn't exactly intend to buy them. But I could have guessed at a certain point I would eventually buy this plant because the colors on it are just so sweet. It's called Lavender Haze. And one of the things I really like about it are how the teeth on it are pink. and the foliage on it is kind of a, let's call it like a bluish green, almost a dusty color. So it's a pastel kind of vibe that you get that not a lot of plants have, that I find very attractive. I'm going to make sure that that has enough water. I saw water come through, but sometimes I'm distracted by the beauty of the plant and I don't notice how much water's come through. You just want to make sure the roots are watered. They get their nice drive-by watering, and then I can put the plant back. Okay, now it's a heavy pot with a heavy plant in it, and I just want to be very careful not to knock it and not have it touch any other plant. Okay, this is up front. Ooh, okay. So I dumped some of the top dressing. And so what I'm going to do here is try to get some of these rocks back in. And not get those rocks into my watering can. One of the things that does happen over time is there are rocks in my watering can because I reuse water. Sometimes it will dump either the rocks in there or the perlite or the bark or whatever was in the tray where the water drains. This plant I believe is an OIK. I don't really understand that name, whether it's supposed to be oik or OIK. This is a very pretty plant. And you'll see this is in a smallish terracotta pot, which is about the size that most of them start in when I get them, based on root size. The root size on this was, you don't want them to be too cramped, but you don't want them to have too much space for water to collect and potentially create root rot. This plant had babies in the pot with it. And because of the size of the pots that I had, and just in general, whatever I felt like at the time, I separated them into these two babies in a pot together. And they're a little bit more of a closer pot than the others. So I feel like, well, there's two reasons for that. One is over time, what you realize is having them close together is not a bad thing. Yes, they'll compete with each other for water a little bit, but it's not going to hurt them to be together like this. The other reason is over time, I don't have as many of the big pots as I have little pots. Space is an issue that you need to think about, like where are you going to put it and how much space do you have left. And so these are in a small pot together. This is my Fez aloe. This is such a cute little plant. I got it from an online seller. It was much smaller than this. It has grown extra leaves, which make me very optimistic for its future. What you'll see with this plant is it has very pointy teeth on it. And I've actually hurt myself on those teeth a couple times. You'll see how on the leaves themselves, there's marks from when the leaves come out, what the little spines do to the leaves. It looks to me like it's got a type of farina on the leaves, or the wax, and that as it grows and spreads, some of the spines are scraping that off to give it a really distinctive look. But yeah, this was a much smaller plant when I got it. Just keeping in mind it can be painful. I like to say she bites. This is my coral aloe. I bought this from the online seller as well. It is an unusual aloe. It doesn't look like the other aloes, and that's, one of the reasons I was attracted to it. It has grown. I've got new leaves coming out in the center. I was worried about it because it's very like fleshy looking. The other aloes, you'll notice, they have what I would consider thin leaves, and would therefore, in my opinion, not be as susceptible to overwatering because they don't hold on to water. Like this one might hold on to water a lot. The other reason to be a little worried about it is this pot, even though it's terracotta, doesn't have very good drainage holes on the bottom. It's a very small drainage hole. So I will set that aside and let it drain for quite a while before I put it back, because it will continue to drain for a long period of time. So there's worry in that respect that if the drainage hole isn't big enough, you will have water drainage, and then you'll have the plant will sit in a saucer of water, which is usually not a good thing. I really like how this plant has like the stressing on the tips of the leaves, but it's not browning. So it's not anything that needed to be cut or clipped. And it's got such a very nice symmetrical look to it. And the new leaves in the center are just so cute. Okay, well, that's all I have for today. I want to thank you all for joining, and have a good rest of your day.